Alrighty, so this is a class on a book that I read a while ago. Actually, my sister told me about it. It was one of the most famous TED Talks. So after this, you could watch it. It's only 12 minutes long. It's like top 10 most famous TED Talks by a guy named Shawn Achor. Okay, now Shawn Achor is a psychologist, and he went to Harvard. And when he graduated Harvard, they asked him to stay on, I think, for his PhD, and he stayed on for 8 years, living as an RA, resident assistant, in the dorms. So he was pretty much doing all of his experiments and surveys and stuff like this on the students, the incoming freshmen, sophomore, seniors, junior students. So for 8 years, he studied Harvard students, and he liked to focus on positive psychology. He said the problem today is that all the psychologists like to focus on the negative psychology. So they only look at the negative things. You come into their office with one problem, you leave with 20 problems because they diagnose you with all these different things so they can charge you more, and it's just like a really bad problem. No one cares to study the positive psychology, they only care about the negative, right? So he studied the positive psychology. One thing that he realized, he said, you'd be surprised. People get into Harvard, they must be so happy, so excited, so thrilled for the honor to go to Harvard. And yeah, that wears off after like a week or two. They just get into it and they just get very competitive and I gotta be first. And there's a lot of suicidal people in Harvard and it's very depressing. And he's like, this is crazy. They should be the happiest people on earth. They're the smartest people. And they got into Harvard. You should be so lucky and grateful. But that's actually not the truth. So what I'm gonna talk about is very much based on his research. And I threw some other things there from other books. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is, well, let me see if I can also do this. Society. So the first thing he says is society is the number one problem because society tells us that the harder we work and the more money we accumulate, the more successful we'll be and the happier we'll be, right? So when I'm successful, I'll be happy. When I make $1 million, I'll be happy. If I win the lottery, I'll be happy. But how many people do we know that won the lottery? I mean, we don't know anyone, but in the news, they win the lottery and they commit suicide, they lose all their money, they go broke, they're miserable, they get divorced. Like there's so many things. Money does not bring happiness. Also, a lot of us tell ourselves that, we'll have a goal, whatever the goal is, make $100,000, whatever it is. And when we hit that goal, then we'll be happy. As long as I hit that goal, I experience it. But the truth is that you'll hit that goal, you'll experience temporary happiness, and then you'll just set a new goal and a new goal. So you keep chasing happiness. You keep chasing these goals. That happened to me. Personally, I guess I'll get into this now. So for me, I always had a lifeline goal. This can be very personal. I'm sorry, it might sound like bragging, but I had a lifeline goal. I want to be a millionaire by 30 years old. And then exactly at 30, I sold Practice Panther. I became a millionaire. Wow, sick. And I remember, I'll never forget this day, the wire transfer came into the bank account. I was like, holy shit. And it was like, yes, one of the top 5 happiest days of my life that one day. And then what did I do? I went to lunch with Ori, went to dinner with my wife. The next day I came back to the office and it was all gone. I was, no. No. That excitement. No, that newfound happiness. The next day, life went back to normal. I went back to my normal routine. I was on my desk, and I'm like, I'll never forget. I went back to my desk. I turned on the computer. I'm like, this is it. I was like, wow, okay. I was like, I hit my goal, and now what? That happiness lasted 24 hours, and I was right back to normal. Life was normal. So trust me, I'm a personal example. I've lived it. I'm telling you now. Making a lot of money, becoming a millionaire, all these things that you have in your head will not make you any happier at all. It will definitely make life easier, for sure. Financial problems, stress, stuff like that. But still, it's all relative. And there's a lot of people and celebrities and actors and athletes that were millionaires that are miserable, that are committing suicide, that are depressed. Robin Williams. I mean, there's so many people. He was a comedian and a millionaire, committed suicide. A lot of people are depressed no matter how much money they have. So it's all relative, and you see it today in today's world. So let's see what else we got here. I have a slide for Biggie. Let me see if I can find it. We already covered this. Yeah. More money, more problems. Here's my Biggie slide. So it really is true, right? So like the more money you have, the more problems you have, because you're just creating your own problems. That's what I've learned personally. So I have a lot of friends who make a lot of money, and I'm talking about like $1 million a year, like crazy money, and they're miserable. Because why? When they were making $100,000 a year, they were spending $100,000 a year. When they're making $1 million, they're spending $1 million a year. Like it's called lifestyle creep. The more you make, the more you spend. And yeah, you might think, wow, they're making $1 million a year, but they're living life as if they were making $50,000 a year because they're just spending the same amount of money. They have the same amount of debt. They have stress. They have all these things they can't afford. My friend works at Lamborghini Miami, and I told him, oh, what are you doing here? Are you sales? He's like, oh, I'm buying people back out of their leases. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, well, people that can't afford their leases. I'm like, people can't afford their Lamborghinis? He's like, yeah, dude. He's like, a lot of people get Lamborghinis that can't afford them. They're just Miami, the show, it's all show, and I'm getting them out of their cars. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, people that have a lot of money can't even afford it and getting out of their cars, losing their homes, foreclosures, all this stuff. It's real. So you could have everything you want, and I know some friends where their house will just feel like empty. It's a beautiful house, but just feels like alone and empty, and the wife's never around, and he's never around. Like, there's marital issues. Like, it just sucks. Like, that's not happy. Yeah, it's not happiness. I don't know what that means, but
maybe it's all sad inside.
Yeah.
They close the curtains. They don't let in the sunlight.
And then I'll tell you a total opposite story. I have a cousin in Israel, and I haven't seen him in many years. And I went to Israel a few years ago, and I visited him. And the guy it looked like a homeless trailer park, like holes in the ceiling, like in the roof, like leaks this. And he had like 5 kids and like really poor. And I've never met anyone happier in my life. I was like, wow, you are so happy with what you have. And he's so grateful. Yeah, I'm so grateful. I have my family, I have my health, we have kids, like so happy. I was like, holy shit, like this is incredible. So really, money does not bring happiness. Okay, so Shawn Achor, like I said, he studied happiness. And after 8 years of his research, what he concluded, very simple, is success does not increase happiness. It's actually reverse. Happiness increases success. So what does that mean? He said happier people are more likely to succeed, more likely to do well in school, get good grades, get a good job, get promoted, move up in life. Because you're happier, people want to be more around you, you're more positive, you're doing better on sales, people like you, they trust you. So it's a total opposite thing. And he says, so one of the things is obviously, this is a very cliche, like be happy with what you have, but it's very true. Right now, I guess if I could think of all of us in this room, we are super lucky and fortunate to be American citizens, living in the US, having a roof over our head, having a good job with decent benefits, okay? Good salaries, a good life. We live in Miami, like this is like amazing. Like we live where people vacation, like this is amazing. So we have a great life when we think about it. Yes, question?
Some residents.
Some residents, not everyone's a resident. Well, everyone's a US citizen, right? Yeah, obviously they all live below your means, right? So, living below your means is really important. Like I said, people that can make $1 million a year are still not even living below their means. So they're just always constantly stressed out about money, emergencies, living in debt, over your head. So it's very important to always live below your means as much as possible. So otherwise you're just causing your own stress in a way, okay? Or living paycheck to paycheck, which is the worst thing ever. And all of us go through that. So let's see if I have this next one. Yes. So this is actually really interesting. And this one I really believe in. And this one I've listened to a lot of books on this. Like, it's so true. Tony Robbins always talks about this, how you can reprogram your brain or rewire your neurons in your brain and we'll get to it at the end, like things you can do to reprogram your brain. But what they're pretty much saying is that happiness is a choice. It's a mindset and mentality. You are choosing to be happy or sad. I'll give you an example. If you injure your left hand, you say, oh, I'm so depressed, I'm so sad, my left hand, I'm injured, I can't do X, Y, Z. Or you can say, it happened, I choose to accept it, everything happens for a reason, and thank God I have my right hand. I can still drive, I can write, I can type. Yeah, you could probably type 100 words a minute still, Verge, So, happiness, really, like, the next time something happens to you and makes you feel sad, you say, wait a minute, I'm choosing to be sad. I'm choosing to have these emotions. It's really freaking hard to do that, but if you can catch yourself, you can say, I'm choosing to have these feelings. It's very, very hard to do that though. So we get on to the power of positive thinking. This is like obviously a huge thing everyone's heard about, and there's a ton of books on this, but positive thinking helps you reframe everything in life and how you see the world. It changes the lens, they call it, of how you see everything. And there's an interesting story, speaking of lens. people that are, people that are always down, always negative. No matter what you tell them, it's always going to be bad news. Oh, they always figure out a way to make it turn into a negative, no matter what. So there was a story at Ori's old company, Nova, and I was the sales manager there at the time in this particular role. And I had great news. Before, they only had 10 days off a year. That was it, just 10 vacation days a year. And some people wanted more, and we didn't want to fire them if they took more. It was like really weird. So we said, okay, you can take more than 10 days, but we're just going to pay you for the days you worked. Fair enough. The guy said, you're going to take my salary away? You're going to deduct it? I was like, no, you would have been fired before. Now we're giving you more days off, and we just pay you for what you worked. And he saw it as like, you backstabbers. And no matter what good news we told them, this person, it was always bad. No matter what. We could do no wrong, no right. Because he had like the negative mentality, always looking for the cons and everything in life. So if you're looking for those cons and negatives, you're going to find them, sure. And if you're looking for the positives, you will also find them. So personally, I like to always, switch things around and always look at the positives if I can. It's hard, but if you can, you will. So this is actually very cool. So this is a change lens. Your brain is 31% more productive than a negative, neutral, or stressed brain. This is what Shawn Achor realized in his studies. 31% more productive. I definitely believe this. And you are 37% better at sales. So, hey guys. But really, I think it's like 37% better in everything. And there's actually something interesting here that says 90% of happiness does not come from the external world, but how you perceive the world, okay? So a lot of people think, I'm not happy because of other things in my environment. This happened to me, that happened to me, my external world, things that are happening to me. I'm blaming others, whatever it is, but really, it's how you perceive those things that are happening to you, okay? It's all about your perceptions. That's what Shawn is saying, okay? And also a note on IQ and EQ, which is interesting. Only 25% of job success is predicted by IQ, how smart you are, let's just say cognitive ability. And the other 75% is your optimism levels, how optimistic you are, social support, I'll talk about that, and your ability to see stress as a challenge instead of a threat. So social support, what he says is you have to have a good, what's that word? Support system, thank you. Friends, family, connections, stuff like that. So I'll talk about this now. We live in the most socially connected generation ever. We have the most friends ever in the history of the world. We're on Facebook. We have 1,200 friends on Facebook. Yet we are also the loneliest and most depressed generation, which is so interesting. And what some experts say is because these are all fake friends, right? There's 1,200 fake friends. I don't really care for those 1,200 people. So it's really important to have you can have a small group, even if two or three people. They're just close friends that you're always hanging around with, and that's the most important. And I guess I'll talk about this now also. So friends are probably one of the most important things for social support, but also for your energy. So you want to remove, we'll talk about it, the toxicity in your life, and negative friends or family or anyone can really bring you down. So you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. You're just going to kind of absorb everyone's energy around you. So the best advice they give you is get away from negativity, get away from toxicity. Even in the workforce, in our last company, we had 1 or 2, you could say bad apples that were just very negative, and it was toxic. It was contagious. It affected everyone else in the company. It was unbelievable how that happens. So try to stay away from people like that. And handling stress is very important, obviously. When everyone handles stress differently, and it's really hard to handle stress. And over time, you will get better at it, of course, and there's things you could do to improve it. But what I've learned is when something stressful happens, a lot of people like to focus on oh my God, this happened, I can't believe it. They're just dwelling on what just happened. So it's really hard to do, but step out of that and say, okay, it happened. I can't change it. It already happened. Whatever happened, happened. I can dwell on it. I could be upset about it. I could be depressed about it. But I could also move on, or I could look for solutions to how to solve it. So, this is something that I do, and it drives my wife crazy. I'm oh, that's horrible. All right, let's solve it. And she's I don't want to solve it. I was okay. So that's what I do to cope. It's my coping mechanism. I'll get out a sheet of paper. I'm all right, this happened. How do we solve it? Okay, 1, 2, 3. These are how we're going to solve it. That's how I deal with it. I'm not saying that's the best way. It's just what works for me. Everyone has different ways of dealing with it. And smile. So this is something interesting because What they say is even a fake smile works because it changes your brain to like maybe release dopamines just by fake smiling. So if you're like feeling down, you're like, fake smile, you know? Like a fake smile works, it triggers your brain subconsciously to be happier. So I heard this in the training video, that in call centers, they have like a picture of like a smile when they're making calls or leaving voicemails, because just by smiling, you change your tone of voice, you change your energy, and it's really weird, but it's true, it happens. Okay? So you might see me like leaving a voicemail, I'd be like, hey, John! You know, it's like so weird, but I'm just like, it's ingrained in me. And that's what happens. And then also, everything happens for a reason, good or bad. I mean, this is a way of living if you believe in this, especially if you believe in God and you believe that everything happens for a reason, there's no coincidences, everything is planned. And if you believe that, so now every single time something happens to you, good or bad, it happens for a reason. So I'm in traffic. Oh, thank God I'm in traffic because maybe I would have been in an accident and God just saved me from this accident. Whatever it is, you know, everything happens for a reason. I hurt my left arm. Wow, thank God. Maybe I would have hurt my right arm. Like, whatever it is, it happened for a reason. Someone passed away. Unfortunate, it happened for a reason. I mean, that's like the most extreme case, obviously, but.
Well, you're on this.
Yes.
I usually do that, but what about if you're motivated by why? The answer, question why.
What do you mean? Explain that.
I mean, like, okay, so.
Oh, why did it happen?
Why did it happen?
Okay,
you
great.
yourself nuts, like, oh man, I cannot figure out why this thing happened.
Great. So if you study the Bible, the Torah, whatever it is, at least in ours, it says that you're not supposed to understand the why. We don't understand why God created Earth, why this happens. You have to, I mean, you could try to understand it, but there's a lot of things we don't understand. A lot. We're never going to understand it. We never know. And you do a good deed, and then you get rewarded right away. You're like, wow, thank you. Like, you can see the correlation. Or you do something bad, and then something bad happens to you. Oh, you see that also correlation. You get punished for it. But, you know, we don't know. We don't know what's going on in this world. There's so many energies and things happening. We have no idea. So, yeah, I know. Why not?
It's a very scientific way of thinking. Like, what is the why to this?
You know, in Judaism, there's, we lost in my family, we lost a nephew who was like 7 years old, the sweetest boy ever. And how the rabbis tell you why this stuff happens is like, if a child dies or has cancer at 2 years old, like crazy, unimaginable things that happen. Why? So in Judaism, a lot of times they'll say that this child was brought into the world to fulfill a role they didn't fulfill in the previous world, whatever that was. And maybe they just became a bar mitzvah. They never got bar mitzvah, so they became bar mitzvah and they died right away after. They fulfilled that role in their life that they didn't fulfill in their previous life, and that's why now they're moving on to the next world or to heaven. So it's like a nice way of thinking about it, but once again, it's an explanation that we'll never know. Exactly, we'll never know. Let's see. You know, life in general it's just too short. Yes. So life is too short to be sad about it. At the end of the day, you know, we'll live life, and then when we're 80 years old, we'll look back and say, wow, you know, I could have done X, Y, Z. I could have been happier. I could have did this. I could have done that. I met someone one time at the dentist's office. She was the receptionist. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to New York this weekend. She must have been like 45 years old. Oh, that's so exciting. I've never been to New York. I'm like, you're 45? Living in Miami? Never been to New York? Yeah, I never really left Miami. I'm like, oh my God, I regret it. I was like, wow, that's crazy. You know, like that's crazy. Yeah. Another person I met said like, oh, what do you do for a living? I said, oh, at the time I was like fixing computers. Oh, do you like it? Yeah, I love it. It's my passion, very passionate hobby. She's like, oh, you're so lucky. I've been in this same job for 30 years and I hate it. I was like, shit. She's like, shit. It's like, boom. Yeah. I was like, okay. See you later. Yeah. But it's true, you know, some people are not happy with what they're doing, where they are in life. It just sucks. Like, so make that change. Do something different. Looking back at your life, you want to make sure you live life to the fullest, obviously. There's a great book that I have not read yet, but I'm excited to read. Well, one of them is the book you recommended. Yes. And another book is, I forgot the name of it. I'll try to find it, but I think it's The 5 Regrets of the Dying. Have you heard of this? No. All right. So pretty much it's like, yeah, there was a nurse in a, what's this word? Hospice care, exactly, end of life care. And the nurse talked to like hundreds of people on their deathbed, and she asked them, what do you regret most in life? And she said she's never heard, I regret not making more money. It was always like, I regret not spending more time with my family, building stronger connections, not being upset with my father, and then he passed away, like so many things like that. So it's an interesting book. I'm excited to read it if you're interested in it. But, I take a lot of this stuff from my dad. My dad always was like, never sweat the small stuff. He was always like, every time like something bad happened, it was like, you didn't pick up this, you didn't throw out the garbage. Did someone die? Like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. Did someone die? And it's such like a mentality that's ingrained in me. It's like, no one died. Like, it's okay. Like, we didn't call that hot lead and within 3 minutes. Did someone die? Like, it's okay. We'll call in 4 minutes, Like, it's not that, like, sure, things are important, fine, but it's not life or death, right? That's the way I like to look at things. And when you think of everything like that, you're like, it's not that important. It's not that, don't be stressed about it. It's not important. Speaking about life or death, it's interesting whenever you go, unfortunately, to a funeral and it's like, it's really sad. You're like, wow, like this person just died. And then it makes you think like all these problems I'm having in life are like so trivial. They're so not important. They're so small. And it takes those like moments that just punch you in the gut to make you wake up and like, this isn't important. What am I even stressing about this for? My friend just died. My family just died. Like we have our life. We are so lucky. And those are the moments that really kind of make you grateful for living, of course. So there's a few exercises I think we're going to get to. Well, we've already spoke about this, but
Jesse Itzler?
Yeah, the Navy SEAL dude?
He's the guy that lived.
Well, he lived with him, right, exactly.
Right. So his approach to life is too short. If you want to look it up, because I don't want to get into it.
Go into it, because I'm reading. Go into it.
So these guys, I think he's like 52, and the way he sees it is like, let's say, for example, my family's in Spain. I see my family once a year. My parents are like 60. If they live to life expectancy, they're getting like 20 more years, so I have 20 more times with them.
Exactly.
But
It's scary.
4 days. So if I have 80
80 days.
For example, I have 80 more days. In
Wow.
It makes you look at it in a different way.
Yeah, that's...
Like, oh shit, that's really 80 days goes by like this.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a scary way to think about that.
It's very scary. to
Yeah.
think about.
Well, it makes you appreciate every single second you have with them now, right?
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Also, as far as just one quick thing about stress, there's going to be a lot of people in your life that are going to be very stressed, that don't handle stress the same way you do. So it could be a spouse, family member, best friend, or whoever it is. And that's okay. Like, you could think of it as like, it's okay for you to be stressed. Like, you could be stressed about it. I'm not going to let your stress affect me. Like, that's okay. You can be stressed. I'm not going to be stressed. You're not going to stress me out over this.
Exactly.
You can be stressed. I'm not.
I tell that to my wife and she gets more stressed.
Exactly. That's the worst. I've also tried that, and it's the worst.
It's like telling someone to calm down.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not smart.
Yeah.
I was this morning or last night. I was like, I'm just gonna remove myself from the equation. And I went to the balcony and I was like,
100%. Very smart.
Let it flow.
I definitely think marriage teaches you so much about all of this. Like, it brings out all of your flaws. It brings everything out. Yeah, it's interesting. You're laughing. Okay, so the toxicity we already spoke about, like not hanging out with negative friends, toxic friends, but also there's a lot of negative stimulus in our world, specifically social media. So if you find yourself looking at other people's fake lives online, wow, look at this life. Like I have a family member very close to me that on Instagram lives the most lavish lifestyle you would ever imagine. It looks like this person is a multi-gajillionaire, private jets, this, that, 30,000 followers, and all my friends like, wow, your whatever it is, your family member looks like they're living life great. I'm like, it's totally fake, It's like totally opposite. You would never know. But so many people probably look up to this person like, I wish I had their life. And I'm like, you probably don't wish you had their life if you really knew their real life.
I got
Right.
off Instagram a couple months ago and it's boosted my mentality
Right.
completely.
Right.
Completely.
Totally.
That
Totally.
FOMO is completely gone.
Totally, yeah. I removed Facebook one time also. And I'm like, I need it for business now. Shit. But yeah, there were times where I'll follow someone, and I'm just like, everything they post, I'm like, oh, did you see that post? So horrible. No. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, let me just unfollow them. Like, what am I doing? So unfollow, unfriend, whatever it is, so social media. Number 2, the news. Super negative.
Feed off of that.
Yeah. Violence, murder, rape, killing. It's crazy.
There was a study recently in compared Europe and the US. Europe was like 70% negative, and the US was like 80-something%
Oh my
negative.
gosh.
During the height of COVID last year, it was like 92%.
Oh.
Everything. I was like, there's so many good things happening. You're only talking about.
They're only focusing on the bad because that's, I guess, we love it. We feed off the bad news, right? Exactly. No one watches good, happy news, I guess. We like the bad stuff, which is sick in the head of us. Yeah. So, okay. So these are actually some activities you can do to increase happiness, some like different methods that Shawn is giving. We spoke about this. All right. How to increase positivity, gratefulness, and happiness. So a few things. Number one, 3 gratitudes. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think what this says is, okay, I have it here. So write 3 new things every day for 21 days that you're grateful for. So I wake up, I'm grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful for my spouse. I'm grateful for my children. Okay, that's one day. Next day, 3 new grateful things. So what you're doing is you're wiring your brain to wake up every morning and say, I am grateful for these things. And after 21 days, you're rewiring your brain. Because 21 days is like that day of that where it becomes a habit, they say. Journaling is the next thing. I think that's what we just covered. Well, I guess we'll talk about journaling. Do I have it? Yeah. Journaling. Write 1 positive thing that happened to you today. Okay? Oh, today I made a good sale. Positive. Today this happened. I helped someone out. Positive. I got bagels. Everyone was happy with me. Positive. Okay. I got a good review on SourceForge. So positive. Yeah. Didn't go to Whole Foods. I don't have it here. I guess I forgot it. But exercise is also, it increases endorphins, makes you happier. I don't exercise that often. I wish I did, but whenever I do, I'm like, wow, you feel so much better and alive. It sucks. It's unfortunate that we don't exercise more, but we all know that.
Tennis helps too.
Tennis, any exercise. Any exercise. It doesn't matter.
Once you do the top spin, it's a great
Smash it. Yeah, I played last night. But really, anything just gets you going, gets you sweating, your creativity going. You play tennis?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
I've been playing since 6. So since 6 years old, I was going to tennis camp. So I know top spin.
Ooh, hey.
I know the splice.
Bird's got some hidden talents here.
He does.
Like Marlon, you have no idea Marlon's hidden talents.
Classified.
Yeah, classified, top secret. Well, you and Gary can tell. Meditation, I've never meditated, but I hear like everyone talks about it. Anyone do it? Yes?
I'm meditating all day. I'm
Patience.
It works. Right.
Every day.
Yeah. Everyone talk, and all the books, they say this. And I'm like, yeah, great. Not gonna do it today. It's hard. Like, it's just like shut off, no thoughts. It's like impossible. Put your phone away. It's hard. It's really hard. One thing I do, which is incredible because of Judaism, is I shut off every Saturday for 24 hours, no phone, no electricity, no TV, no internet, no nothing. It's like wow, it's like silent, it's peaceful. You're with your family, you're talking, you're having a real conversation without your gadgets. Like, it's crazy once a week. It's really, really amazing. Random acts of kindness. I actually tried this after I read this book, and it was so fun. Like, let's say I was Burj today and I was buying bagels and there was someone like, you can go in front of me. Really? Yeah, go in front of me. It's like, wow, like, it just makes you feel good. It was so interesting. There's like random things. Today, someone wanted to get in my lane. I'm like, no, siree. Didn't let him in.
Excuse me, there's a line.
Yeah, exactly. If I was practicing this, hey, go ahead. Makes you feel good, right? So these sort of things, it's so funny. Like, just try to do one random act a day. You'll be like, wow, people are so appreciative. It's crazy.
Except for the ones that are not appreciated.
Yeah, and then you're like, wow.
You regret it.
One time this
Top-
guy
I was
asked me
grateful. Go
I'm
back.
just trying
for $5 because he said
I
he
take
needed
half.
gas. I gave it to him. I think he might have been homeless. He went into the gas station. I saw him walk out with some liquor. I was like, that's whatever. I still helped him out.
Yeah, it's okay. You can't help everyone, right?
Yeah.
So what you could do in the future is like buy them gas or buy them a drink, buy them a Subway or something like that, whatever it is. Yeah.
They sell your food now. Like, if you buy food for someone, they'll literally try to sell it to someone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Seriously.
But I look at that and say, at least I tried.
Yeah.
Exactly. You did your part. So now it goes in more into the book, and we have 4 minutes, so let's see if we can fly through this. So how do you define happiness? There is no definition for happiness, really. It's not being blind to the negatives like we said. It's just about the ability to see both the negatives and the positives to have success in our external world. So we already spoke about this. Yes. I'm going to kind of fly through this. We spoke about this. Hi, Burj, look at you.
Look at you, Burj.
Hey.
Oh.
That's you.
Okay, it's true. Okay, you guys can just read this.
Yep, it is a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap. Yep. Right, so how do you look at the world? Are you positive, negative, pessimistic, optimistic? Can you handle pain, disappointment in life? We already spoke about the IQ thing. Friends and family we spoke about. What do you do when you have a difficult problem? How do you exercise? What is your current state of happiness? Do you think life is good? You're among the happiest people in the world if you think, yeah, life is good, everything is great. Everything, I can't complain. Or it can only get better. Well, it can only get better. I don't love this line because, yeah, you could also strive for better life. That's okay. But always remember to be happy with the current state that you're in right now. So right now I'm married with 2 kids. I'm not thinking, oh, I wish I was 20 years old clubbing in South Beach like those people on Facebook. No, I was happy at that time with my life status, and I'm happy now with where I am in life. So just be happy. Try to be happy with where you are right now today. Do you know what you actually want or need to be happy? Do you think someone else is to be blamed for your unhappiness? So we do this a lot. We blame external sources for unhappiness. My parents didn't do this today. My spouse didn't do this. My landlord is evicting me. My job did this. We're just blaming other people. The economy, I always hear the economy. It's like, dude, shut up about the economy. The economy affects everyone. It's how you... Yeah, raining today, the rain, the weather makes people sad, right? So try not to be affected by these stimuli in the world. So we talk about this. So this I love, and I want to kind of touch on this for a second, then I think we'll kind of end off in here. So this was based on a book called *Sapiens*, which is the study of evolution and humankind. So what the book was saying is that historically we were hunter-gatherers, right? No problem, thanks. We had to survive. So we would hunt all day, and then we would gather food, gather. So we were always gathering as much resources as possible to survive, of course. But that mentality, we don't have to do that anymore today. Today, we don't have to gather to survive. We can go to Amazon or Whole Foods and buy whatever we want. So we still are programmed to have that mentality, though, where we want more and more and more, which is why we're programmed to not be happy with what we have, because we always want more because of our evolution. Interesting, right?
Very interesting.
Alrighty.
All right.
Good. Any questions?
I'm going to say do a study that is very cool.
Yeah.
You want to see?